Good afternoon. Welcome to the Big Show. The Big Show comes at you every day, right around 5 o'clock. We try and get to the bottom of whatever it is that we are going to talk about in Pittsburgh sports for the day. Obviously, it's just the Steelers channel we're on, so we're going to talk about the Steelers. But the bottom line is we talk about everything. And, of course, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on. I mean, if you think about it, you have the Penguins coming back to play after the All-Star break or the Olympic break or whatever the hell we're calling the 3 weeks that they just took off. And again, I will say one of the most interesting things or fascinating things to me will be tonight is the reception that Jack Hughes gets tonight at PPG Paints Arena. I mean, he is a visiting player. But, of course, he is an Olympic hero, and you know, I mean, that's going to be something I think that is going to follow these guys for quite some time. So, to me, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Will they give him a big ovation and everything else, or, you know, will they still treat him like he is the enemy? Now then, couple things with respect to the Steelers. We're talking a little bit about another quarterback option that's popped up, but the other thing is, I think one of the most incredible things that comes up every single year is that we have this survey that comes out among players every single year. And the survey is always about, they rank the organizations in not just in terms of like winning and losing and the coaching staff and all that other stuff, but all the other things, facilities, the weight rooms and the strength and conditioning staff. And one of the things that is absolutely amazing to me, and I mean this in all sincerity, is that for the third straight year, the Steelers are at or near the bottom of this. And I think that's where it is one of those things that how in the world can the Steelers, who are considered a first-class organization, be at the bottom again? Like this year they ranked last. Yeah, last year they ranked 28th. They've ranked in the bottom 5 or 6 each of the last 4 years, and they get an F in a couple of categories that really it just doesn't even make a whole lot of sense until you realize there's a few things that really, really, really probably need to change. One, for instance, they get an F for facility, the locker room facility, practice facility, locker room. Why? There's only 5 bathroom stalls for the entire team in the locker room. You got to, and again, it's a locker room for the entire team, which means, practice squad guys and everything. We're talking about almost 70 guys, and I'm sure they, go out on the field. I mean, they have a regimen where they eat and then they go out on the field and they're on the field for 2 hours. I'm sure when they come in, a bunch of them have to use the bathroom. But there's only 5 stalls. I think another thing that's pretty amazing is that they rank near the bottom in terms of the weight room. And again, there are some people that are very, very, very upset because they feel like the Steelers are getting picked on. And now, of course, this is the point where they are going to, start to blame Pitt because they share the facility with Pitt, and because they share the facility with Pitt, it's one of those things where, they can't expand and all the other good stuff. Here's the thing, okay? When the Steelers put together their entire, plan to go and, have their practice facility in the South Side, they basically, decided they were going to try and make sure that they could accommodate the Steelers. Well, I think the most important thing about that is, I'm sorry, they were going to accommodate Pitt. Well, I mean, it worked for both sides. It worked for both sides when it happened. Okay? When it was put together, it worked for both sides. The Steelers, when it comes to what they needed and what they built, it worked. And they were able to accommodate Pitt, and then they were able to accommodate Pitt at the stadium. Of course, there's a lot of people that don't like that either, but to me, I don't think that really matters, honestly. I don't think that really matters. What matters is a couple things. Number one, the ownership group gets an F. How do the Roonies get an F? I'd love to know that. They get an F because they're not known as a group of guys, and of course it's just one, Art Rooney II, who they're not known as people that will really overextend themselves and spend a lot of money on extras. So there's that. Second thing is they are, a team. There are a bunch of guys that, when you look at the way that they have upgraded and updated, they haven't got it done, period. And then, it's still kind of concerning because they're supposed to be one of the best ownership groups in the NFL, and they consistently get an F. But here are a couple things that, need to change. Home field. Listen, I understand that the Roonies have this pipe dream, and they really, really want to be able to keep the surface at Acrisure Stadium as natural grass. And that's wonderful if you want to do it. But you know what? You need to go hire the first class of first class grounds crew guys to make sure that grass is really playable. And it isn't, a complete disaster like it is every single week we see after about the third week of the season. And again, people are going to blame Pitt. Oh, Pitt, Pitt plays on that. That's not the problem. The problem is they have not been able to figure out how to grow grass that grows roots, because it's a sand pit over there. It's a horrible place to try and have a grass field. So you've got to do one of two things. Either, say to your current grounds crew, listen, we've got to make some changes, and go out and hire a world-class, first-rate group of guys. Go get the guys that, that do the golf courses for like the U.S. Open or the Masters. Go find the guys that do, in Europe, the pitches, the fields for soccer, right? I mean, a lot of those European countries, they play a lot of soccer games when the weather isn't great. And guess what? Those fields are always in pristine shape. Go hire a real crew that really knows what they're doing. And that goes back to ownership. It gives the impression that you're not willing to do these things to get yourself in position to be a better organization. Period. That's number one. Number two, the locker room. Okay. Again, your problem at the Southside facility with the locker room, with the weight room, with everything else, your problem is very, very simple. You don't have anywhere to go. So you're going to have to basically go out near the airport. I've heard they're sniffing around some property out there in South Fayette Township, out by the airport, or go do what the Penguins did, go out to Cranberry. Go somewhere where you can buy land and you can put a really first-class facility that stands on its own. And you basically have to just do that, because there's nowhere to take your locker room now. It can't get bigger. There's nowhere to expand the building. There's nowhere to make your weight room bigger. And that's another thing they got an F for, was their weight room, right? There's no way to make it bigger or expand it because there's nowhere to go in that facility. make a deal with Pitt, have them buy you out, have them be able to then move into the entire building for themselves, have the indoor facility to themselves, have the fields in the back to themselves, and guess what? You go build your own, like a real NFL team does. When they understand that they don't have enough, they don't have what it takes to be a first-class organization, they're willing to spend the money to go do it. Period. I mean, if you look at the Bengals, who are considered an awful organization, right? Steelers got an F in locker room. Bengals got an A-. Steelers got an F in weight room. Bengals got an A-. Steelers got an F for their strength coaches. The Bengals got an A. Team ownership of the Bengals got a D+, which is not good except for when you compare it to the Steelers that got an F. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you start comparing the Steelers to some of these other teams and their grades, and you just basically say, what are they doing? What are they doing? And why are they doing it? It just doesn't make sense. Period. And I don't understand. I just don't understand why we're here every single year now for 4 years in a row or whatever, where the Steelers are at the bottom of these surveys from the players. That's going to be the question. That is going to be the question, period. It's one of those things where, are they going to make whatever it is they need to make? Are they going to make the necessary changes? And again, it starts, in my mind at least, it starts with being willing to go out and spend a little bit of money on a new facility, on a new locker room. Go out and do what you have to do to get better. You don't want to get Fs in these categories all the time. You just don't. You don't want to get Fs in these categories all the time. And I think it's a bad reflection of the ownership group that they continue to rank as low as they do. I mean, you know, they finished 32 out of 32. But to me, 32 out of 32, the last 3 or 4 years, guess what? They've been 28, they've been 27, they've been 28. So all this means is that they haven't done anything at all to get better. Nothing. They've done nothing at all to improve. Again, some of it is out of their hands. Okay? If you look at where their practice facility is in the South Side, there's a corporation that is backed up right, a parking lot right there right at the back of the practice fields. So you can't go backwards. I mean, you can't go back behind the building. To the left, right, is a creek. It's a walking trail and a road. There's nowhere to go. To the right is the FBI building. There's nowhere to go that way. And inside your own building, your building is split in half and you're sharing it with Pitt. There's nowhere to go inside either. So, some of that is not completely their fault. And there are people who are yelling and screaming about Pitt. I'll just say again, when they signed the deal, it worked and made sense for both parties involved. Period. It worked and it made sense for both parties involved. So, it's short-sighted now, obviously, because, both parties actually have outgrown it. I mean, we have known for at least 2 years that one of them are going to be leaving. And it seems like it has been the Steelers who have been most proactive in trying to find a place to go. Again, I heard they were sniffing around some property out by the airport, and trying to put together a practice facility out there that's a a full-blown practice facility. And then, of course, they would have the ability to have Pitt buy them out, or maybe even Pitt could, pay rent to them, or however, whatever the arrangement would be. So that might change, but the fact that ownership is seen as cheap is a real problem. The fact that the strength and conditioning staff, which, by the way, has changed because we've got a new coach, so maybe it'll be different, but it's just one of those things where I feel like, this shouldn't be happening. And for all the people that are always telling us how great the Steelers organization is, well, this is kind of a joke. It really is. So I feel like it's important, right, to understand that they have to, go out and do better here. But the thing they're fighting against, it's not, they got a small market, or they have a small weight room and they got a small locker room. That's not what they're fighting against. I mean, that's part of it, but those things are temporary. What they're fighting against is basically the perception that the Steelers and the Rooneys are really cheap and aren't willing to really do what they have to do to spend money. Now, one of the things that has popped up, and again, this is the silly season, I call it, although the combine is happening now, so, people are actually talking about prospects, but it's kind of funny. I'm not in Indianapolis, obviously, but I don't need to be able to report this to you. The Steelers are meeting with prospects. A, the Steelers are taking a few of these guys to dinner or whatever. B, the Steelers are having very productive conversations with them. And by the time we get close to the draft, the Steelers will have had about 45 or 50 of these guys either through their building, or they'll deal with them in Indianapolis, or they'll go to their pro days and take them out to dinner the night before. So that's, what's sort of been reported. They're meeting with a lot of cornerbacks. They're meeting with a lot of linebackers, seems like. But at the end of the day, they've got to meet with like 45 or 50 guys. And then they have 30 guys that can actually bring into their facility for visits. So they're going to be linked to a zillion guys. Now, one thing that also is happening right now is there's all these speculative things about who they might sign or who they might trade for or who they might bring in. The latest quarterback rumored to be linked to maybe a Steelers deal, Mac Jones. Now, I'm just the messenger. This is CBS Sports, did a couple of these mock trades. The Steelers would give up a second-round pick, number 53 overall, for Mac Jones. I got to be honest with you, if the Steelers do this, they're the dumbest team I've ever come across. You want to tell me a third-round pick? Because they have 2 third-round picks. You want to tell me their second third-round pick you give up for Mac Jones? Maybe I'll listen to that. But not your second-round pick. You've got too many other things you've got to try and figure out. But anyway, here it is. Steelers are in a quarterback conundrum. They await word on whether or not Aaron Rodgers will come back for a second season or opt for retirement. Event that Rodgers returns, that would effectively eliminate them from contention for the Jones trade. However, Pittsburgh wouldn't bring in Jones as a backup as the heir apparent to Rodgers, nor would Jones want to do that deal. However, this would allow them to address their long-term quarterback needs if they brought in Jones. Now, Jones is 27 years old, right? So he wouldn't be basically asked to carry a team that is horrific. I mean, they did make the playoffs. Steelers have some salary cap space, so they can make it work. Mac Jones, if you think about, the fact that Mike McCarthy is allegedly one of these quarterback whisperers, well, Mac Jones is a guy that maybe he could benefit from playing for McCarthy. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why there are people who believe that this would make sense. I just don't know that I love the idea of Mac Jones. I just don't know that I really love what he does. This last year, you got to remember he's playing for San Francisco, which is a very quarterback-friendly team. 2,151 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Not terrible. Maybe he could be okay. The 49ers, are going to, drive a hard bargain, which is why I don't think the Steelers would be that interested in him. But nevertheless, I mean, he's better than the number of the guys that are on the block. I mean, if you ask me, would you rather have Mac Jones or Daniel Jones? I know everybody got all excited about Danny Dimes for like the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and then all of a sudden he woke up and remembered he was Danny Dimes. And then he got hurt. But if you look at Mac Jones, I mean, I would tell you he is probably the ultimate example of sort of a game manager kind of player. He was in New England for 3 years, Jacksonville for a year, San Francisco for a year. He has, 57 starts. He's 25-32, which is not horrific. 67% of his passes he's completed. 67 touchdowns, 50 interceptions. I mean, 50 interceptions in 57 starts is not great. But at the end of the day, he's thrown for more touchdowns than interceptions. You put him in the Steelers offense and you allow him to do it, he does, and, they hand the ball off a bunch, and, it could work. I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. I just think the price is too high, number one. Number two, I just think he's the kind of guy they're not going to go get. People are enamored with Mike McCarthy and his offense and think Mac Jones would fit right in. Maybe. But are you going to be willing to give up everything you need to give up to get him? And here's the other thing. Mac Jones at 27, he's proven on some level he could be a starting quarterback. I have to believe he's going to want some sort of a long-term deal. So are you going to, tie yourself to him? I just don't know. Here's the other thing that I think a lot of people want to know. Is he better? Is he better than Will Howard? And I would say unequivocally he is. Just because we don't know a whole lot about Will Howard. Maybe they turn out to be similar players, but Will Howard has proven absolutely nothing in the NFL. I mean, whatever you want to say about Mac Jones, he's at least proven that he can win games in the NFL. He's not a bad player. I don't know that he's a good player, but I don't think he's a bad player either. I think he's a guy you could probably win with if you put him around, put him, in the right situation. What I would tell you is you don't want to use your second-round pick to get him, though. That's lunacy. I mean, the Steelers, at the very most should be talking about giving up their second, third-round pick on a deal like this. Because to me, they need every pick they can get because they've got a lot of holes to fill. They need receivers. They need corners. They need a defensive lineman, at least one. They need probably one, if not two, offensive linemen. So you cannot give up. You cannot give up, a high draft pick, a second-round pick. You just can't. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, these picks are important this year, and not just because the draft is here. And, let me address that real quick, too. If you think the Steelers are going to try and alter their draft philosophy to make some sort of big splash because the draft is here, you don't know the Steelers at all. They're not going to do that. They're not going to, trade 4 picks to move up just to get a quarterback, especially since I don't know that there's a quarterback that's out there that's available that is really all that good to go up there and get. The kid from Indiana, I think, is an okay player. I don't think he's a great player. I think he's going to be similar to Kenny Pickett in that, he's the first quarterback taken off the board because he was a really good college player, and he just never develops into a really good NFL player. Which, brings me to the fact that the Steelers also met with Drew Allar, speaking of quarterbacks. Drew Allar. Look, Drew Allar is a guy that's got some real good physical ability. He's got some good arm talent. He's actually a pretty good athlete. He can make all the throws that you want him to make. His problem is he's not very, he's not very bright. Period. He's just not very bright. He doesn't think at all that, he doesn't see the field very well at all. He forces things that are not there. It's really, really, really difficult, for me to get excited about Drew Allar, who's going to drop, obviously, a little bit in the draft. For a while, they thought he was a first rounder. Now, if he's around late in the 3rd round, early 4th, maybe I think about it if I'm the Steelers taking a shot at him. But again, you're taking a shot at his physical ability, his arm talent. But it's just really going to be hard for people to sell me on the idea of Drew Allar as the Steelers quarterback of the future. Physically, yes. I just don't think mentally he's good enough. And I don't know if he's a guy that, you can develop. So we shall see with all of that where that ends up. But to me, I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of options for the Steelers this year. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers is one of them, but I don't know, if he really changes dramatically what they're going to do. If he comes back, that's great. If he doesn't come back, that's great too. But to me, a guy like Mac Jones, the other guy who is out there that, they've had some link to is Kyler Murray. That doesn't excite me at all. Really doesn't. So they've got to figure out a quarterback. They've got to figure it out. And they will figure it out. And it might be a combination of things. They might actually decide that they're going to go with, Aaron Rodgers for another year or somebody like that. And then maybe go out and, get a guy in the draft. There's a lot of different ways they could go. But to me, I don't know that Mac Jones is really the guy you're looking to go get and pin your fortunes to, unless you can convince yourself or convince him, hey, why don't you come here, right? You will be a guy who gets a chance to start, and as a result, we can, give you the chance to go prove it, right? Do a prove it deal, and if you play well, then you're going to cash in. I guess you could sell him on that. I don't know. I just am not a big believer in a guy like Mac Jones. I know everybody's really, really excited about, because of what Sam Darnold did. I would really, really be careful. Very, very careful with the whole Sam Darnold thing, because I think the one thing about the Seahawks is, and even the Vikings last year, the Seahawks, the Vikings, they had incredibly good rosters, period. So that's where we're at. I think it's important to note that. And then we will go ahead and go from there. Not a whole lot going on for the weekend. I know there are some things to get to, but for the most part, the Penguins are back, and the Pirates are in spring training, and the Combine will wrap up, so we can talk about all these kinds of things next week when I'm back. Until then, enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.